Beneath the station. October 13th, 2024. Dover Hill, Pennsylvania. Fog hung low like a woolen curtain, swallowing the winding backroads of northern Pennsylvania. The GPS had already lost signal 20 minutes ago, but Erin Calloway wasn't worried. Getting lost was part of the job. She pulled over beside a rusted chain-link fence that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Behind it stood the silhouette of Dover Hill Station, a structure half-eaten by ivy and time. Its once grand arched windows were now black voids, and the clock tower leaned as if listening to the whispers of the forest behind it. "This is it," she whispered into her camera mic, switching on her flashlight. The beam pierced the fog, illuminating flaking paint and weathered bricks. Dover Hill Station. Closed in 1974 after a mysterious fire and several unexplained disappearances. Her voice trembled not from fear, but from excitement. She'd explored asylums, schools, tunnels. But this one? Dover Hill had something else. An energy, a story itching to crawl out of its grave. The camera recorded every step as she walked up to the old entrance. The iron gates groaned when she pushed them, and the sound echoed like a scream down the empty tracks. Inside the station, Erin stepped into the main lobby and was immediately swallowed by darkness. Her flashlight scanned the room-decaying benches, a crumbling ticket booth, faded murals of smiling conductors waving to invisible passengers. She reached into her backpack and unfolded a set of blueprints she'd found in an old archive back in Harrisburg. There was mention of underground tunnels, a hidden conductor's lounge, even a steam vault. As she looked around, her light landed on a board near the ceiling. Next train, 12:13 a.m. eastbound. It hadn't worked in 50 years. And yet, the hands on the board clicked once, then stopped. "Okay," Erin whispered, raising her camera again. First confirmed movement inside Dover Hill. A distant whistle pierced the air, faint, like a breath through metal. She froze, but when she turned, there was nothing. No wind, no train, no source. She stayed in town that night at the Hilltop Motel, a place with faded carpets and a front desk manned by someone who looked like he hadn't blinked in years. "You went up to the station?" he asked while handing over her room key. "Yeah, why?" He stared at her deadpan. "People who hear the whistle usually don't hear anything else after." Erin chuckled. "Urban legend?" He didn't smile. "The last one who went poking around up there was some ghost hunting YouTuber last summer. He never uploaded the footage. Police found his camera in a swamp, blood on the lens, no body." She hesitated. "Did you see the footage?" "Didn't have to," the man said, lowering his voice. "One of the cops who watched it said he saw a train in the background. No tracks, just ... floating in the fog." Erin returned the next night. She was more careful this time, checking her battery packs, setting motion detectors. By 11:40 p.m., she was stationed inside the station's main waiting room, cameras rolling. She whispered into the lens, "If the legend's true, the Whistler's train appears." At 12:13 a.m., it only whistles once. Then someone goes missing. She waited and waited. The whistle. It came low, deep, dragging across the fog like a funeral bell. The room temperature dropped instantly. Her breath formed mist. Every flashlight flickered, then died. Erin fumbled with her backup light. When it blinked on, the room was empty. Her equipment was gone. So was her bag. The only thing that remained was her own camera, now sitting on the floor recording her. But she hadn't put it there. She picked it up with trembling hands and rewound a few seconds. Her heart nearly stopped. The footage showed her sitting in the same spot. Then a figure stepped into the frame. Tall, thin, wearing a soot-covered conductor's uniform. Face blurred, as if hidden by static. It leaned into the camera and whispered, "You shouldn't have come." Erin's hands were shaking now. Something shifted behind her. She turned, and in the doorway, standing just beyond the flashlight's reach, was a silhouette holding a lantern, swinging gently, watching her. She ran. The next morning, Erin visited the town diner. She needed answers. A man in his late 70s sat near the back, sipping coffee from a chip mug. She'd seen his photo before in old records, Miles Granger, the last living conductor who worked Dover Hill before it shut down. "You're the girl who went up there," he said without looking. "I need to know what happened." In 1973, Miles sighed. That station was cursed long before '73, but something woke up that year. A train came through that wasn't on any schedule. Black iron, no markings. It didn't stop. He sipped his coffee. but people got on it anyway. Just walked onto the platform, eyes glazed over like they were sleepwalking. We tried to stop them. They didn't listen. What happened to them? They never came back. The next morning, the station was on fire. I saw a face in the smoke. It was the engineer. He leaned closer. He didn't have eyes. Back to Doverhill. Erin wasn't done. She returned that night, driven by obsession. The platform behind the station was overgrown, but parts of the rails still shimmered under the moonlight. At 12:12, the world fell quiet. No crickets, no wind. Then, the whistle. A black train emerged from the mist. Silent wheels, open doors. Erin raised her camera. A voice behind her said, "You have to choose." She turned. No one there. Another whisper, "Step on and see what they saw, or stay and never know." She stepped forward. The train doors yawned open like the mouth of a predator. She took one step inside, then another. Darkness swallowed her. Inside the train, Erin expected rusted seats, broken windows, maybe a dusty interior untouched for decades. But the train wasn't abandoned. It was immaculate. Blood-red velvet seats, brass handles that gleamed. Candles in old iron sconces flickered without flame, casting long, trembling shadows. The air smelled like old roses and something else metallic, like rust. No conductor. No passengers. Yet Erin felt eyes on her. The doors behind her hissed shut. She spun around. No, no, no. The train began to move, smoothly. No rumble beneath her feet. No engine sound. Just forward. Erin grabbed her camera. The screen read 12:13. But the time stamp didn't change. She tried her phone. No signal. The clock read 12:13 and refused to tick. Time was frozen. As she moved down the aisle, she passed empty seats until one wasn't. A girl sat near the window, young, maybe 16, wearing a blue dress from another era. Her skin was pale, almost translucent. Her eyes were glassy, staring into nothing. "Hello?" Erin whispered. The girl didn't move, but her lips parted slowly. Words came out like a recording. "We boarded for the promise of light, but we ride in the belly of night." Erin stepped back. "What is this place?" The girl turned. Her face twitched unnaturally. Her voice shifted deeper, older. "You stepped on at Doverhill. You'll step off when it takes you." The next compartment was a lavish dining room, chandeliers, polished mahogany tables, wine glasses filled with black liquid. A phonograph crackled a tune from the 1930s, and then figures began to appear in the seats. A woman in her nurse's uniform from the 1940s, holding a tray of untouched food. A man in a tuxedo, bleeding from the ears. A child in pajamas, whispering to a broken doll. Each one sat perfectly still, yet their mouths moved, repeating the same phrase under their breath. "The Whistler rides at midnight. The Whistler rides at midnight." Erin backed away, camera shaking. She turned, and there it was. The conductor, 7 feet tall, charcoal skin, uniform black as ash. No eyes, just hollow sockets leaking smoke. A whistle hung from a chain around his neck. He didn't walk, he glided. And he raised one long finger toward her. Then the lights went out. Beneath the station, Erin awoke lying on cold stone. Not on the train, somewhere else. She coughed. Dust filled her lungs. Her flashlight was barely working, but she recognized the shape of tunnels, carved rock, and rusted beams. This wasn't the train. It was beneath Doverhill Station. She must have blacked out. But how did she get underground? The tunnel walls were covered in scratch marks and names carved by hand. Hundreds of names. She ran her fingers across a few. C. Delaney 1939. Sarah W. 1962. Matthew Granger 1973. Her light froze on the last one. Matthew Granger, Miles' son? Erin grabbed her camera and followed the sound. The manifest room. The tunnel led to a vault-like chamber lined with filing cabinets, timetables, and ledgers. It looked like a secret office. She found a thick book labeled Manifest Doverhill Express. Inside were names, hundreds of them, under a single heading. Final boarding list. She flipped through the pages. Each name was followed by date of disappearance, status, pending or retrieved. Then she saw her own name, Calloway, Erin. Pending. She dropped the book. Suddenly, a cold hand gripped her shoulder. She screamed, turned around. It was Miles Granger. Miles Truth. "How did you get down here?" she gasped. Miles looked older, worn, ash on his coat. He was shaking. "I followed the train once. In 73, when it took my boy. Your son Matthew. His name is on the wall. Miles nodded, his eyes misty. He heard the whistle too. Walked straight into the station like he was sleepwalking. Never came back. Aaron's voice cracked. What is this place? It's not a place. It's a route. A train that shouldn't exist. A path through time and death. They say it used to run from the underworld. Then it found our tracks. Why is it taking people? Miles took a deep breath. To feed the Whistler. He Whistler's engine. Suddenly, the ground shook. A rhythmic chugging began, deep, thunderous, mechanical. The engine's coming back, Miles said, grabbing Aaron's arm. We need to get to the heart before it fully manifests again. The heart? The engineer's room, where it all began. They ran through narrow tunnels, the sound of the train growing louder. Behind them, lanterns flickered to life one by one, though no one held them. And then, the singing began. Low, haunting, from voices that didn't belong to the living. Through ash and steam and rusted steel, we ride where no one dares to feel. The room of the Whistler, they burst through a crumbling iron door. Inside was a chamber shaped like a train engine, with rusted control panels, gears that spun on their own, and a massive furnace in the center. Black smoke poured from a chimney that didn't reach the surface. Tied to a post nearby was a person alive. Aaron rushed over. It was Detective Alan Reyes. He was pale, dehydrated, and covered in ash. I came looking, he muttered. The YouTuber, the boy, Miles' son, all of them. How long have you been down here? She asked. I don't know, he whispered. There's no time here, only stops. Suddenly, a scream echoed through the furnace, and the Whistler appeared in the smoke. Inside the heart of the train, the smoke curled violently, forming the silhouette of the Whistler, tall, skeletal, dressed in a decaying conductor's uniform that shimmered like molten tar. His face was blurred in a shadow so thick it looked painted on the air. He stepped forward slowly, every movement grinding like rusted machinery. His whistle, a jagged black iron piece, hung from his neck and pulsed with a faint, heartbeat-like thrum. Erin froze, shielding her eyes from the furnace glow. The camera on her chest strap continued recording, its red light blinking faster, as if it sensed death. Behind her, Miles Granger shoved open a rusted locker and pulled out a lantern. This way, he shouted. But the Whistler pointed. The world shook. A chorus of voices, hundreds strong, rose from the furnace. Board the train, board the train, board the train. The sound stabbed through Aaron's skull like needles. Reyes began to convulse, eyes rolling back. I saw him, he whispered. I saw what he is. He's not a ghost. What is he? Aaron yelled. Reyes' lips trembled. He's the last passenger. Escape through the gears. Miles yanked Aaron away just as a black tendril of smoke lashed toward her. It hit the wall instead, sizzling into the stone like acid. Down here, Miles roared. They dropped into a narrow maintenance shaft beneath the engine chamber, barely wide enough to crawl through. Metal scraped their shoulders. The sound of screeching iron echoed behind them. Reyes, he's still up there. Aaron gasped. We can't save him yet, Miles said. Not until we stop the train. The shaft opened into a chamber of clockwork mechanisms, massive gears, pistons, and chains that churned without sound. It was the engine's core, and at its center stood a pedestal with an ancient leather-bound book glowing faintly red. Aaron picked it up. Doverhill Manifest Souls accounted. Every page was filled with names, dates, and methods of death. Lucille Hart, 1941, burned in sleeping car. Benjamin Torres, 1958, crushed between cars. Matthew Granger, 1973, manifested, awaiting closure. Then Aaron found her own page. Callaway, Aaron, 2024. The Forbiddance Manifest. The last few pages were different. Names were blurred. Entire sections were redacted with black smears that moved like insects under the paper. But one entry stood out. It took up a full page. Written in bold, carved letters. The conductor, original passenger. Miles leaned over her shoulder. That's him. The Whistler? Aaron asked. Miles nodded. Before he drove the train, he was its prisoner. Aaron flipped to the inside of the back cover. A handwritten scrawl read. A train can't run without a final stop. Burn the manifest. End the ride. Suddenly, the book slammed shut on its own. Smoke began pouring in from the ventilation shafts. And above them, the furnace roared like a beast waking up. Chased by the Whistler, the gears slowed. The floor began to rise. The chamber was turning into a lift. bringing them back to the surface into the main depot of Doverhill. But as they ascended, something climbed with them. The Whistler's bony hands gripped the edge of the gear platform. His face began to materialize gray, expressionless, with empty sockets weeping streams of ash. Miles pulled a rusted flare from his coat and lit it. The red flame hissed violently in the dark. "Back!" he screamed, thrusting it toward the creature. The Whistler hissed, but didn't retreat. Instead, he whispered, "No stop, no end." Then he blew the whistle. The flare died instantly, and Aaron saw all the faces of the lost appear around them, ghostly passengers trapped in loops of fear, endlessly walking through invisible cars. Some of them looked at her. One reached out and begged, "Help us off." The conductor's secret. They escaped into the old ticketing hall of Doverhill Station. Moonlight poured through broken windows. Erin clutched the manifest like a sacred object. "There's something wrong with this," she said, gasping. "This isn't just a train manifest. It's binding them." Miles sat on the bench, breathing hard. The book was never supposed to exist. It was created to keep the train running, to give it fuel. Fuel? He nodded. Souls, names. It's why they're still on board, why they haven't moved on. Because their names are still written. Erin looked at the glowing leather cover. "But there's one name that's missing," she said. "The conductor. The Whistler." Miles' eyes widened. That's why he's trapped too. The memory of Matthew suddenly, the room dimmed. A voice echoed from the hallway. "Dad?" Miles turned, trembling. "Matthew?" Out of the fog, a young boy stepped forward, 11 or 12. Wearing a wool coat, pale, eyes black as pitch. "Is it really you?" Miles stepped forward, tears in his eyes. Erin whispered, "Miles, don't." The boy smiled too wide. And in that instant, Erin saw the illusion break. The boy's shadow grew longer, claws at its edges. She screamed, "It's not him." But Miles embraced the child. The moment he did, the shadow swallowed them both. Erin ran toward the smoke, but Miles was gone. Only the flare remained, still warm. The exit sign. Erin staggered through the depot. Every exit was now a wall. Every window showed nothing but tracks disappearing into mist. The manifest pulsed in her arms like it had a heartbeat of its own. The only light came from the departure sign, still hanging from the ceiling. It now read, "No," she whispered. She opened the book. Her name pulsed on the page. Status, pending. She tore at it, scratched her name out. Nothing happened. The whistle blew again. Erin fell to her knees. Then she saw it. In the corner of the page, a small inked circle, a wax seal next to her name, unbroken. She remembered the back cover. Burn the manifest. End the ride. The decision. Erin limped toward the furnace room again. The air was thick. Voices screamed through the vents. The Whistler stood at the center, waiting. "I know what you are," she said. "I know why you ride." He stepped closer. Erin raised the book. "No more names." He stopped. She struck a match. The manifest curled at the edges, hissing. The Whistler let out a soundless scream. His body disintegrated into smoke sucked into the pages. Every ghost around her, every soul in the depot began to vanish, one by one. Smiling. Free. 1 hour later, Doverhill Station, Platform 3, the depot had changed. Where once there were cracked tiles and ivy-choked walls, now there stood silence, pure, undisturbed silence. Not peaceful, but hollow. Erin stood alone beneath the giant clock that hadn't moved in 50 years. It now ticked. 12:14 a.m., 1 minute past the usual whistle. The manifest burned, reduced to ash, had disappeared in the furnace's glow. The ghostly passengers, the looping whispers, and even the Whistler himself. All gone. And yet Erin didn't feel free. The weight on her chest was heavier now, as if the train hadn't taken her soul, but replaced it with something else. Detective Rhea's return. She wandered back toward the platform edge, hoping it was truly over. Then came the voice. "You shouldn't have done that." Erin turned sharply. From the shadows emerged Detective Alan Reyes, alive, but barely. His clothes were scorched, his eyes sunken. He moved like a puppet, dragged by invisible strings. "Reyes?" she whispered, stepping forward. He held out a hand. "Help me, please." She rushed forward, grabbing his arm, then froze. His pulse was gone. Reyes looked into her eyes. "I got off the train, but something got off with me." The conductor's curse. Erin pulled him into the depot lobby. "We need to get you out of here." But Reyes shook his head. "No, there is no out, not anymore." His voice cracked as he spoke. "When you burned the manifest, you didn't destroy the Whistler. You broke his tether. He's no longer bound to the train. Erin's eyes widened. "He's free," she whispered. "No," Reyes said. "Worse. He's riding anything now. Roads, power lines, wires, even people." He collapsed onto the floor, convulsing. Erin leaned in to help but stopped. From his mouth, a whistle emerged. A jagged, blackened whistle, exactly like the conductor's. She backed away slowly. And Reyes whispered, with a voice not his own, "Next stop, the world." The black train returns. The sound came again, but this time, not from the depot. It came from beneath her. The ground vibrated. Outside, the tracks began to glow faint red. Steel warped. Gravel turned to ash. A rumble shook the sky, and then the black train returned. But it didn't pull in. It burst from the ground, carving a new path through earth and stone, dragging itself through the real world like a demon forcing its way out of hell. It had no wheels, no smoke, just screams. And the conductor? He wasn't in front. He was everywhere. Faces formed in the windows, some familiar, some ancient, all screaming. Miles Granger's last stop. Suddenly, someone stepped in front of Aaron Miles Granger, but he was supposed to be dead. His coat was torn. His hands glowed with burning script. His face was calm. "I made a deal," he said softly. "A deal?" "Gave myself up, traded my stop for yours. He took me instead." Aaron stepped forward. "You can't. There has to be another way." Miles shook his head. "It has to end with someone who rode the train, who belonged there." Behind them, the train screeched to a halt. The doors opened, black smoke pouring out like the breath of a god. "Someone has to become the seal," Miles said. "And I've been waiting 50 years. The engine room burns. The Whistler stepped out taller than ever. His eyes were burning orbs, and his uniform now glowed with embers. He reached for Aaron, but Miles stepped between them. "No more passengers," he growled. "Not this time." He lifted a small silver object, a conductor's pocket watch, and snapped it shut. The air around them cracked like thunder. Suddenly, all the ghosts returned, not to haunt but to hold. They wrapped around the Whistler, dragging him back. The train shrieked. Steel screamed. Glass shattered. And then, it all imploded. The train, the depot, the fog, everything collapsed into the watch, and Miles with it. Aftermath. Silence on the rails. Aaron awoke in the grass outside the station grounds. The sun was rising. The depot, gone. No ruins. No tracks, just earth and sky. Her camera lay beside her. It blinked. Battery low. Last recording, 12:13 a.m. She opened the footage. It showed everything. The platform, the Whistler, the train, the fire. And at the very end, Miles Granger saluting her before vanishing in the light. Epilogue. The new whistle, 2 weeks later. Erin sat in a hospital room in Pittsburgh, recovering. A nurse handed her a parcel. "No return address," she said. Inside was a black iron whistle. Tied to it a note. "Keep this safe. If it ever blows again, run." 1 month later. Location, Baltimore, Maryland. Erin Calloway hadn't slept in 3 nights. She kept the black whistle locked in a lead box under her bed, wrapped in salt. Surrounded by old railway nails she'd taken from the burned foundation of Doverhill. Her apartment reeked of incense and iron. Her dreams stitched together with smoke and flickering lights. Every night, 12:13 a.m., her clock stopped for exactly 60 seconds. And she heard the whistle. Even though it hadn't blown. Even though the depot was gone. Even though Miles Granger had sealed the Whistler, or so she'd thought. Anomalies began. It started in Maine. A cargo train derailed near an abandoned tunnel. Investigators reported seeing passengers, even though the train carried steel beams, not people. Then South Carolina. A rail worker vanished, last seen staring at an empty track where a black train rolled by. Then Illinois. A child posted a video on a private forum showing a whistle blowing from the sky. Each report had the same time stamp, 12:13 a.m. Each came with one strange detail: audio interference that sounded like the rhythm of a heartbeat through steel. Erin compiled everything into a private folder labeled The Whistler Lives. But what terrified her most, she was starting to remember things she hadn't lived. Reyes returns. Erin received a call from an unknown number. She picked up. Silence. Then a voice rasped, "I'm back." She knew that voice. Detective Alan Reyes, but he was dead. Or lost. "Where are you?" she whispered. "Nowhere. And everywhere. I'm riding the rails again." His voice trembled, metallic, like he was speaking through a train radio. "They made a new manifest," he said. "After you burned the old one, it didn't end. It reset. The Whistler can't be destroyed. He can only be delayed." "What do you mean?" "He's building something worse. A network, not just a train. A system, everything that moves planes, buses, subways. He's infecting them. Then, before the line cut out, he whispered, "Your name is first on the list again." Back to where it all began, there was only one thing to do. Erin packed her gear, the black whistle, and one final note from Miles Granger. It was tucked behind the lining of her old backpack. It read, "If you're reading this, I'm gone. But if he comes back, the station will rise again. You must find its new form. The last stop isn't Doverhill, it's you." The ghost rail following Reyes data and EVP coordinates. Erin tracked the source of the rail heartbeat to a remote stretch of land in Appalachia, West Virginia. No tracks. No station, just empty woods. Until 12:13 a.m., ear cracked open like thunder. The earth trembled, and with the groan of twisted iron, a train track rose from the ground, forming the ghost rail made of bone-colored steel and ash. The Whistler's train reborn, but different this time. It had no engine. Instead, the front car bore her face, painted, twisted in horror, mouth sewn shut. The doors opened. Inside the reconstructed train, Erin stepped in. No longer velvet seats and chandeliers. The interior was made of memories, her childhood bedroom, her mother's funeral, the day she found her first urban legend online. The next car was her nightmares, bloody hands reaching from walls, trains screaming through her veins, miles being swallowed by smoke. In the third car, she found Reyes, hunched over, chained to the seat. "Help me," he whispered. She reached for him, and suddenly, the lights flickered. The Whistler stood behind her, but now he wore her skin. The final confrontation. "I see now," Erin whispered, backing into the last car, the engineer's cabin. The controls were unfamiliar. The dials read times that didn't exist. 13.61, 12 o'clock at night. Never. The Whistler followed, dragging chains of every passenger he had taken. "You want me," she said. "Not because I escaped, because I understand you now." The Whistler tilted his head. "You're not just a spirit," Erin said. "You're regret. You're what happens when a journey never ends." She pulled out the whistle and blew it. What the whistle really was, the sound ripped through time. All the train windows exploded. The gears stopped. The track beneath the train fractured and fell into blackness. The Whistler howled, caught in a web of steam and starlight. And from the smoke, Miles Granger appeared. "You finished the manifest," he said, "but not the ride. What do I do?" He smiled sadly. "You take the last stop." The final ride. Erin stepped into the conductor's seat. The train began to move not on tracks, but through stars, through silence, past every soul that had ever been taken. One by one, their names erased from the burning book floating before her. And then, only hers remained. She opened the whistle. It was empty now. She spoke her name, and it vanished. 1 year later, Washington, D.C., National Railway Archives. A historian files through boxes of recovered footage from unknown sources. He plays a tape. The footage shows a woman, Erin Calloway, stepping onto a train. A black whistle hangs from her neck. She turns to the camera and says, "If you hear the whistle at 12:13, don't follow it." Then the screen goes black.